Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of GNN. You like that one? The Gifted News Network, where we are going to dissect news. It's in the common media, specifically on social media. We're going to dissect the hot takes from a very sports science focused point of view. So what we are tackling today, what we're starting with, is going to be the story, the hype, the hubbub around American sprinter Sha'carri Richardson and her recent ban for testing positive for marijuana. So we're not going to get into, any debate upon whether, smoking the jazz cabbage is the right decision, the wrong decision. We're not going to draw a line there. We're going to take more of our opinion on the topic as a whole, as well as if there are any added benefits to smoking weed in general. Is it actually a performance enhancer, or is this an outdated rule that needs to be shown the door? Jay, do you want to bring us up to speed on this story in general? What kind of happened here? Who she is, the timeline, what really went down? I know you're clued in on the story.
Is it because he's brown?
And yes, it's mostly that. Yeah. So okay. Sha'carri Richardson is actually his sister.
Yeah, we actually get it's a brown person newsletter that we get once a month. So it has all the news within the community, and we also get coupons for fried chicken. We get they let us know where we can get an auto loan with poor credit. So it's just it's a revolving newsletter. We get a lot of information monthly. So that's basically how it's.
It's not real.
All right.
It doesn't actually exist.
It does though.
So Sha'carri Richardson is a sprinter from, I believe she went to LSU. She's pretty young. I think she's like 20 or 21 years old. And she was basically smoking everybody. Well, that's probably the wrong term to use there, but she was very prominent, very promising runner. The good thing is that she's young, but she, I guess, had a very poor relationship with her mother, her birth mother. She was raised, I believe, by her grandparents, and her birth mother recently passed away. And apparently, to cope with that, she got into some of the headbanger boogie, if you will. And so she failed a drug test for one of the U.S. qualifiers. I believe it was like a month out, because the funny thing about track and field and most Olympic sports in general, it's almost like they're like, go ahead and compete, and then we'll tell you whether or not you failed the drug test after the fact, and then we'll strip you of all your qualifications and your medals. It's an interesting way to go about it, but that's basically what happened. Was she used some of the jazz cabbage to cope with the death of her mother, allegedly, failed a drug test after she had qualified. And then I believe the U.S. Olympic Committee then stripped her of her qualification for 30 days, which would have allowed her, she would have missed just the 100-meter sprint. But the weird thing is that she could have still competed in the 4x100 relay. And then recently, they told her that she couldn't even compete in that. And I'm not positive, but I think she may have failed a drug test past 30. She might have failed 2 drug tests. And then they were like, okay, we can only do but so much here. So I think that's a lot of the story. And people are kind of up in arms because they, whatever everybody's opinions are on marijuana or cannabis, whether or not it should be legal or not, it's neither here nor there, but she basically failed some drug tests and now she can't compete. But again, she's young, so that's basically the story.
Yeah. So and that was an interesting one in terms of
at all, or she can.
No, she can no longer compete at all. That's the weird thing, is that some. No, just this Olympics.
Just for this Olympics.
Okay, I was like, damn.
Yeah. So yeah, she's banned for life.
It was very interesting, like you said, Jay, that the phrasing from USA Track and Field was that she was not selected for the 4x100 meter. So it's like, there has to be something else going on there. like you said, Jay, where maybe she failed another drug test. Maybe they don't feel like dealing with the PR backlash of putting her on the team because she has established herself as the fastest 100-meter runner in the United States on the women's side right now. So the fact that she wouldn't be selected for that 4x100 meter, it's like Jamaica just saying, you know what, like Usain, like we're just going to leave you off the 4x100. There's somebody out here who we think would do a better job. So it is very confusing that they would leave her off of that.
Yeah, and I don't know if, I mean, that's the weird thing, and how they worded it, like you said, that she didn't get selected. So I don't know. It's almost like the PR backlash.
Who you selected?
Yeah. We would like the slower lady.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, we'd like her to run this one instead of you. So I don't know exactly what it is. And she hasn't lost any sponsorship. So Nike is just like, no, we ride with her regardless, which is, I guess it's not an interesting stance, but it's almost as if there's more of a backlash now because she can't compete at all than there was where she at least would be able to compete in one of the two events. So it's a weird situation.
Question real quick. Like she's been pretty chill about it though, right? I feel like that's everything I've seen. She's just like, yeah, whatever, man. Failed the drug test. Can't compete this time. Catch you guys later. Like she's pretty chill about the whole thing, right? Or has she like been pretty I don't know, outspoken about it?
I've seen her be pretty accepting of it. You know, a lot of like, I think some tweets that went viral from her were like, I'm human, like I can only do so much. You know, like I was grieving in a way that was unacceptable. Like I knew I was going to get drug tested and I knew this was banned, but like I did it anyway and it was a poor judgment. It's like very rare maturity from a 21-year-old when something like this happens, because, you know, most other individuals, and you've seen this in like the tweets from other people, other athletes surrounding this. You've got like Odell Beckham Jr. being like, this is bullshit. Like athletes being like, all right, burn down the IOC headquarters. And she's like, you know what? Like, it's whatever. Like I failed a drug test. I'm young. I'm still the realest in the game. I was very impressed by it.
You know why? Because she actually pissed hot for T-ball and amphetamines. And she's just like, you know, it's cool. I'll take it. I'll take the marijuana thing. We're cool, dude. Next time.
That's what it was. You think it was a diversion tactic?
No, I have no idea, dude. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people are pretty going off about it. Like other people having her back are really like speaking out about it.
Speaking out, with
Jen
like
Wesley.
more balance.
That's why she's so cool, dude. It's like when you do something fucked up as a kid and you're like, everybody shut the fuck up because you don't want everybody to know how bad you really fucked up. Shut up, man.
He even said something.
Oh,
What
they
did
need to let her in.
Diddy say? What did Puff say?
It's effed up and my heart is broken for and then her Twitter, having her long life dream stripped away for using a legal substance. Then he said, I'm tired of white people sitting in a room making up decisions that affect our hopes and dreams.
God damn it.
All right. So as the resident brown person,
probably most of the board of directors and the operating members of the IOC are probably of the white ethnicity. So Puff, you're not technically wrong there. But so from what I've seen in terms of people in the comments section on ESPN, SportsCenter, all of that, this is a topic that has polarized people down the middle. It's either like, you know, this is complete horseshit, like this rule shouldn't exist, or there's the opposite side of that, which would be like, it's a rule. She knew it was a rule. She broke the rule. She knew she was going to get tested. Like, shame on her for doing something like this. Where do you guys kind of side in that argument there?
I don't think she should have been punished for it.
I am
you drug addict. Enabler.
I just don't like that fucking mindset of like, well, it's a fucking rule. She knew it was a rule. Like, we don't get smarter. Like, we can't use our brains and like figure out whether something like that was made forever ago was just a dumbass fucking rule, you know? I don't know, man. I feel like we're smarter than that.
We should be, right?
I mean, have they ever watched the documentary Icarus? Like, people get away with using actual PEDs all the time, and she tested hot for weed.
It's tough because it's, I mean, I go back and forth about it because it's like, yeah, it is a rule. The tough thing is that, interestingly enough, the first thing that kind of got brought up was that Michael Phelps got away with it. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'm using air quotes around got away with it. Also, Ryan Lochte supposedly got away with it, air quotes again. But what nobody realizes is that neither one of them got away with it. I think Phelps got 6 months. I think Lochte got a year of suspension. The only difference was neither one of them were in an Olympic year. So that was the difference. They couldn't compete, but they weren't in an Olympic year. So there's a part of me, it's kind of like, if this is your life dream and this is the thing that you want to do, there may come a point, regardless of whether or not the policy itself is dated. I think most people would agree with that it is. There's no performance enhancing correction. There are possibly some performance enhancing benefits to using cannabis, but probably not enough to make you run faster. At the end of the day, it's not like that's the thing that allows her to beat everybody. So there's that, but there is that line where it's like, this is the rule, this is the way things are. If that were, I don't know about you guys, but if that were my life dream, I might go, you know what, maybe I got to lay off for a little bit. And the thing that's not spoken about is that the Olympic Committee did take into account that she was coping from the death of her mother. And that's why they only gave her 30 days as opposed to 6 months or a year. The fucked up part about it is that it just happens to be an Olympic year, so she kind of gets screwed out of that. So it's a tough thing either way.
Do you think that this rule is going to survive this media outburst? Because so like within the United States, we kind of have somewhat of like a bias around this issue. It might be easy to be like, oh, like this will for sure be the death of this rule. But we have to consider that the IOC governs the world. Like they govern every single country. So if this rule, it gets a lot of publicity in the United States, that doesn't mean that it gets the same amount of publicity worldwide. And the IOC has to consider all of that. So Dom, you're saying, do you think this rule will continue to exist? Why do you say that?
Because marijuana is still illegal in a lot of places. It's not even federally legal here. So, like, just because, like, I don't even know where she lives. Where's she from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana probably, if she's at LSU.
Like, I'm not sure if recreational use is, like, legal there. Like, it's legal here in Michigan, recreational use of marijuana. But just because the person lives in Michigan, they're competing in Tokyo. Like, marijuana is not legal in Tokyo. I don't think this rule will ever go away because it's not like a worldwide legal substance. It's illegal in different parts of the world still, even different states.
So marijuana not yet legal in Louisiana for recreational use. With a prescription, you can partake, is what I got. So yeah, so it is still illegal in her state, and like you said, still federally illegal. Jay and Paul, I'm curious to hear if you guys think this rule will continue to exist by, say, the next quad.
I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. I mean, probably because like nobody's gonna sit down at a big ass fucking table with the other white dudes and be like, yeah, it's a stupid fucking rule. Like
Yeah, I think Dom's that's a very good point. And it's, the rest of the world isn't, I don't want to say they're as open to certain things as we are in America, but those laws are definitely not universal for the rest of the world. So, I mean, it's almost like if you open up that door, you almost have to open up a bunch of other doors. Who knows what's going on in like Kazakhstan? Like, what do they get down on? Who knows? They might be angel dust people. I don't know. So now they might say like, oh, angel dust is now, it's, I don't know. What do they do in Kazakhstan?
No, you make a good point because like, go to, you can go to like Portland, like a lot of drugs are no longer, are all decriminalized there.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get in trouble for doing cocaine there, like, or having it on your person. Like, it's a decriminalized. It comes down. It doesn't even register as a misdemeanor at certain amounts anymore. So, like, to say that, like, we don't have no idea what other countries, other states are fine with and whatnot. Dude, in Dubai, you go to prison for like 5 years if you get caught with any marijuana. Like, that's why
I did
it's
not
so
know
different.
that.
So I guess like that's would be the big controversy, right? Is that even though like, yeah, getting high right before a race or something probably wouldn't make you faster. But there are certain advantages, like if one country or, team or whatever has access to marijuana, they could be getting better sleep. Their appetite benefits, anti-anxiety benefits for some people, increases anxiety in others. But yeah, those are all, I guess, big advantages that, people from other countries may not have.
And what you said there is important. So it's like smoking weed before the race. I think there's a good bit of research on this that shows that being high does not improve athletic performance, whether that's time to exhaustion, maximum power output, strength, just performance across the entire spectrum. I believe that there is some research. I think it comes from like the 70s and 80s on marijuana. It's some pretty funny research because it's like these people are smoking like 2 grams of weed, which by today's standards is like enough to actually, like, it's like a lethal amount of marijuana. Like, you might actually murder someone with that amount. And the studies indicate that they smoked it out of like wooden pipes, and then they threw these people on like bikes and made them cycle to exhaustion. And it's like, this had to have been the funniest research in the world to conduct. But I think that research does exist, that performance is not improved by getting high right before.
I think maybe some considerations for that, though, is I would assume that these weren't like chronic smokers, and like, there are some sports, or maybe yeah, some sports or activities, but probably some people as well, like an individual thing where like some people may perform better with like less anxiety, like, for
Possible, yeah.
instance, alcohol is a performance enhancing drug in target shooting because it relaxes you, whereas like caffeine actually isn't. You get a little shaky, your anxiety's higher, your heart's beating faster. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe for some people or some circumstances, like, yeah, it could be performance enhancing, but
Yeah,
not from
yeah,
a direct like increases
yeah.
power output. Yeah.
I didn't consider the individual differences there. I've seen I haven't seen the alcohol in target shooting. I have seen the alcohol research in like darts, like the research around darts where people get drunk before they play darts, because I guess it's like a big part of that like competitive dart culture. Is that I can't believe I just fucking said that, competitive dart culture, and they're like getting fucked up beforehand. But yeah, I mean, it's similar to kind of how like beta 2 blockers are at work, right? Like they reduce the anxiety, keep your heart rate down, less shakes, all of that. And those are banned.
Yeah.
I had another point there, but yeah, no, you made another good point when you said like, certain countries may not have access to marijuana and may not be able to reap those recovery benefits that have theorized. I think it's gonna move slow, right? Because one, it has to be decriminalized to be able to do widespread research on it. And then we have to wait for enough research to be done to show if it actually does help with recovery on any measurable scale, and see if that recovery downstream helps performance. So yeah, I think I was a little short-sighted when I said, you know what, they're going to ditch this rule, I bet.
But you know what? There's actually, and part of the reason why, and this is a weird one, and I don't know the science behind it, but they say that marijuana could mask other drugs. So that's the weird one. And I don't know, and I believe it's in that ridiculous USADA drug policy document, is that it can be used to, I don't know what you're trying to mask. I have no idea what marijuana could, or it could possibly mask, but I think that's part of it, is that it can supposedly, allegedly mask other drugs.
Yeah, we need like
I don't know if you guys know anything.
biochem expert. I mean, I know like
We need Hector.
I know that's part of like there was a girl in CrossFit who got I can't remember how long the suspension was, but there was a suspension for using an IV bag. And like a lot of people, she didn't get heavy criticism because a lot of people are like, oh, that's just for, if you have to cut weight or whatever. And it's like, hey guys, there's no cutting weight in what she does. She's a team's CrossFit athlete. That was done that was used as a masking agent to dilute her sample. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that's something that could have happened here, and why they had to take it into account if marijuana can be used as a masking agent.
Now, something that Jason said that I wanted to circle back to and get everyone else's opinion on. Jason mentioned that Sha'carri is young. She's 21 years old. It's highly likely that if she doesn't get injured within the next 4 years of training, that we'll see her again in the next quad of the Summer Olympics, which would be what, 2024? Yeah, 2024. But the assumption that she's not going to get injured, something else doesn't come up in her life, is actually a pretty big one there, right? Like, a lot of things could happen that could offset or derail her athletic career. So I think it is really a shame to see someone lose their chance at the Olympics and not have that guarantee of being there again in 4 years. What do you guys think of that?
No, I agree. I think I don't know. I kind of am bothered that she's not going to get the chance to compete, but life is life, man. It ain't fair.
Dom rules Kuza. She's out of here.
I was just reading this, and it says WADA actually raised the threshold. So it used to be 15 nanograms per milliliter. Now they've raised it to 150. So they're trying to make some adjustments so people could maybe enjoy a little bit from time to time and not pop being positive. So that's a little weird that they're making adjustments for it. But then I don't know. Did she like party right before the test? Like, how did this whole thing go?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a dose. I don't know if that's a dose or a proximity to testing thing.
Yeah.
A little.
Like if she had just like smoked one blunt instead of 4 blunts, she would have been all right. I don't know if that's the issue.
I don't know. I know like if you're not a chronic user, you can actually smoke a little bit like a couple weeks before a drug test and still pass it. But that's where you get that accumulation from habitual smoking for days and weeks on end.
All right, well, Sha'carri, if you're watching this, and I'm sure you are, you're probably an avid fan of the Gifted Performance podcast. We see you out there. Stay healthy, keep training hard, get even faster, and show them what a real 100-meter time looks like next time around. Because there's a chance that, she's just hitting that athletic cusp and she gets even faster as she goes.
Yeah, dude, but you're right. That's a huge assumption, dude. Like, what if she got in a car accident, like lost her leg? Like, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, so but that white table doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. There's
another Sha'carri in 10 years.
There might be. Who knows? She could have been the next Usain Bolt out there. All right. Our next little topic was something that was brought to our attention by our very own Dom Kuza. And it brought up it was a select incident, a select post from a certain individual that kind of sparked a discussion between the four of us about something greater. I'm going to let Dom kind of set the stage here on what he wants to divulge and what he wants to hold back, but we'll kind of let him frame the whole situation here.
So it was the topic that I've been having conversations with you guys and with some of my other friends, and then even some IFBB pros that people know pretty well that I'm friends with have really came to light about people not realizing how there is life outside of competition, like contest prep and stuff, and how people spend their every waking moment like living for that plastic $5 trophy and are willing to like do really stupid things to get there. And I've seen it a bunch. I'm sure you guys have seen it a bunch too. And I think like one thing that like I try to tell all my younger clients, like, get your finances straight, get your career set up, get things that are important set up, then worry about competing and bodybuilding and all that. So that when, because it's going to stop, you have something that's worth everything at the end of your bodybuilding. Because I think a lot of these younger kids now are so invested on being YouTube famous, on being reposted on Instagram pages, that they don't even spend the time working or, you know, working towards a career or anything. And they're going to be left with nothing because they're one injury away from all of that stopping. One stupid pec tear, one bad bicep tear is just waiting to happen. And that's going to be the end all. And they're going to have nothing to fall back on. They're going to be years behind in school if school's their thing. And then, you know, they have no career. They were working as a trainer or a front desk person at the gym just to have the free gym membership. And I think, like, I don't know, I'm not old, but like for the younger kids now seeing it, it's like, it's really sad. It's really sad to see a lot of these kids just like drop out of college for no reason, just to pursue like this material fame.
So a little bit more about the context was there was a specific individual. I honestly don't even know his name, don't really know where he came from, but it was a screenshot that was sent to me. It was just a picture of himself on his story, like very kind of like cliche bodybuilding, like hood, like on his sweater up in the gym, and like very kind of common tripes that you see from, you know, I'm willing to die for this. Like, I'm willing to, I don't even know. I think he's like, I'm willing to go like suicidal for this or something like that. You know, I've been hospitalized and I'll be hospitalized 10 more times if that's what it takes. Things along those lines. And I was like, oh, you know, he's being dramatic and just, you know, playing into this. And then Dom was like, oh, no. He's 100% serious. He's been to the hospital before. Like, he has done these, put himself in the hospital before. And this is someone who came out of that situation and I guess is willing to go down that road again. So Jay and Paul, when you read stuff like this, because it's not uncommon to see on Instagram, what are kind of some of the thoughts, the viewpoints that you have when you read that stuff?
You want to start, Jay?
Paul?
No, I guess I'll start. I don't know. I didn't realize that he had actually been to the hospital. I thought that was just some overhype, like, because I think a lot of us have been there when we're like younger and everything's new and we're excited about it. And like, I don't know, hormones are high. We finish a crazy workout. We're still jacked up on stims. And you're like, I feel like a fucking monster. I need to go post on social media that I feel like a monster. You know what I mean? And you're just overly hype and young and stupid. But I don't know. I think most people just grow out of that stuff because I've seen it too with clients of friends, or people that I know, that eventually there's some burnout period because that's what their days and life revolves around for like years. They wake up, first thought in their head, bodybuilding, and all day long they're thinking about their next workout. Every mirror they pass by, they're like, oh, front double, fucking most muscular. They're like doing like posing practice, no show in sight, like post workout, and they just burn themselves out thinking about bodybuilding. And then one day something hits them. They like something's gotten stale, or they realize something's missing in their life, like they haven't had a stable relationship, or they haven't fucking, I don't know, been close with their friends in a while, or family, or something bad happens. I don't know. And they just kind of like, they just have this awakening. They're like, what is this all fucking for? And I think most people go through that and eventually sort of snap out of it a little bit. But there's like that depression area where they're just like, you know, I think it's just part of being young for most people. But I don't know. This story sounds a little extreme, like it might need some like professional attention.
Yeah, reach out to our friend Dylan Billiou at Stronger for You, something like that. We'll put the link below. Yeah. Jay.
There is a life after bodybuilding, man, and this shit. I used to have somewhat of very little to do with competing, but I've always just wanted to be a bigger guy. And I thought that that's all I was going to care about, like, especially in my early 20s for like ever. And now I'm like 32 now, which relatively isn't that old, but it's starting to seem a little less important the closer that I'm starting to realize this is the age that I'm approaching where things start to fall apart. People start to have health issues. You know, this is where like my dad started having certain issues. And I'm like, oh, dying at 50 doesn't sound that cool now because 32 years hasn't felt like that long of a fucking time. Like, you know, I don't know.
Father wisdom, hit us with it.
I think there's a vast misunderstanding of success in bodybuilding. And I think that a lot of people are under the impression that if they succeed at bodybuilding, there's like something beyond that, like you're going to transcend and that's going to move on to something else. And if you really think about it, there's really only been like one bodybuilder ever who's moved on from bodybuilding success, the biggest success, and then done something else. There's only one. And it's the one that everybody knows. It's the one that everybody, it's probably the bodybuilder, right? And it's Ryan. So,
Thank you.
so, but I mean, if you think about it, it's like Arnold. Arnold went on and did movies, and then he did politics, and now he's just Arnold. So if you think he's really the only one, it's like Ronnie Coleman, the greatest bodybuilder ever. But if you listen to him talk, Ronnie, if you're watching this, I love you. But a lot of people would get the impression that he's a typical bodybuilder and he's not very smart. That's just the way it is.
I'm gonna need you to pull out some cardboard and write that in crayons and then hold it up for him. Like, Ronnie, hi, it's me, Jay.
Yeah, like Dorian. Like even Dorian Yates is just like, I mean, he doesn't call it silly, but he definitely kind of looks back at those times and thinks that some of the things that he did may have been over the top. And he's been kind of quoted with like, not necessarily talking down about bodybuilding, but definitely like he's moved on from that life clearly. So at the end of the day, I think there's this idea that if I become a great bodybuilder, I'm going to find some worth in that. And typically you don't. I mean, I've won shows and the next day I remember like winning my pro card and then going to work on Monday. And at the time I was running a restaurant. I remember like everybody's like, oh man, hey, great job. Can you get me another beer? And I was like, oh shit, like nobody fucking cares about what I did. You know, so it's just this. And I mean, I went through that same sort of stage where I was like, you know, I go to the gym in a hoodie, I get on the stair mill, I don't talk to anybody. You know, I'm carrying around my Tupperware because that's the thing that you need to do. But years later, like Paul was saying, you just realize like, hey, maybe this isn't the most important thing at the end of the day.
No, I agree. Like, this is one thing that really fucking bothers me. I don't know why. I get annoyed so much about seeing this, like, because like they really have no clue what's gonna hit them in like 2 years when like mom and dad say get the fuck out of the house and go live on your own and go do things. And it's just like, I know guys that would scrap up money to like pay for their coaching or like try to get groceries paid for by like sponsors because they didn't have enough money. Like, just for what? Like a card, a piece of paper?
That's the shit I don't get. Is like, this is like, why can't this just be a fun thing that takes up a few hours of your day? You know, like, you don't got to wake up, think about it all day, revolve your life around it. It doesn't take that much. You eat your fucking food, you get your sleep, and you do your training. You know, there should still be like another at least 6 to 8 hours a day to like think about and do other shit. Like,
and even if you think about it, like I think the other day I was, you know, on social media scrolling and ESPN comes up and it's some guy playing disc golf with some ridiculous shot from, I don't even know anything about disc golf, but it looked like he threw it real far and it went into the weird basket thing. I don't know. And everybody went crazy and it was awesome. And it got like, I don't know, 100,000 likes, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, so this guy plays disc golf. I wonder if he walks around all day thinking about disc golf. He probably doesn't. He's probably got other shit going on. He probably goes to work. But this guy is on ESPN's Instagram page. 100,000 people liked it. When's the last time you went on ESPN's Instagram page and there's anything about bodybuilding at all. So in comparison, it's like, how serious do you have to think that disc golf fella took that? But yet he's getting more recognition than you probably ever will as a national level or local level bodybuilder. Like, it's just, you got to take it all into context at the end of the day. It's, you know, how old is bodybuilding? And it's still, I mean, it's like a niche. Is it niche or is it niche? My wife tells me all the time I sound dumb when I say it. It's a niche.
It's niche.
Okay, right. Okay. What does she know? So it's a niche sport at the end of the day. She does know everything. But it's a niche sport for a reason, and it's kind of remained that. And I don't know what people think is going to happen once they get away from bodybuilding. It's most people just don't really care that much about your placing at your local show.
They don't give a fuck. Dude, my friends that aren't fitness related friends didn't even know I fucking competed when I competed. They saw me and said, "How did your show do? How did you do at your show?" And they follow me on social media. That's how much they don't pay attention.
You know, like most people, like I posted a couple contest photos on my Instagram like a couple weeks ago, and I forgot I linked my Instagram to my Facebook, so it also ended up on my Facebook, and I was like, fuck it, I'll leave it. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, all my normal ass fucking people that follow me that like I knew in high school are probably like, there's probably a percentage of them that are like, oh shit, dude, he's not like that fucking chubby weird Asian kid from high school anymore. But like most people are probably making fun of me because I'm wearing a fucking thong and like have a fake tan on. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh god damn it, how'd this make it to Facebook?
And
Jay, do you think that bodybuilding is more niche today than it was, you know, in the Arnold era or in, you know, the Dorian era? Do you think that more people know about bodybuilding now than they did back then? Like, I'm inclined to say yes, but I'm interested to hear your guys' input there.
Yeah, I think more people probably know about it. And I even venture to say that more people probably take it a little bit more seriously than back then. I think even like back in those days, it was kind of like a circus act. Like it was like, you know, these are these weird guys,
right?
Yeah.
You're like, there was that guy over there in the corner in the gym, and you were like, that guy's a bodybuilder. Like, he's weird. Like, we don't talk to that guy because he just does really weird stuff. It was like this very, very, it was a sport that inherently you did it for yourself because you were doing it in spite of the fact that you knew you were going to be an outcast. Whereas now you can get that kind of feed forward, like myopic view of life from social media where you can like post it and have people kind of like feed into your short-sightedness. Like, oh bro, like you killed it at that local show. You're going to crush it at nationals. You're going to get your pro card. You're going to be such a good pro one of these days. And it like feeds that neuroticism of like, all right, let's keep going. All right, let me sell my dog so I can, you know, register for this next show, or let me, you know, break up with my girlfriend because she's taking up way too much of my time, way too much of my money so I can buy more drugs for this next show. It's like, it really feeds it forward. I wonder if it's shifted as much as I see that it has.
You know, probably one of the most popular bodybuilding guys, Jordan Peters, stopped using PEDs. He had this huge like enlightenment to just stop chasing being huge, and he was the guy, like the super hardcore new era Dorian. Like everyone knew that about him, and he's super knowledgeable too. But like he even came to the conclusion like, I'm gonna die if I don't stop doing this. And now he like lost 60 pounds, like is training for like high intensity twice a week to get his cardio back up, like, and like for that guy to do that, like a lot of people should probably be like looking in the mirror like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best idea.
But I think a lot of people get like him and they get themselves in the mindset of that like sunken cost fallacy where they say like, I've sunk so much of my time, so much of my effort, so much of my finances into this one endeavor that I'm in too deep to transition now. I'm in too deep to switch over to being the CrossFit guy or the powerlifting guy or the like promotion of health and wellness guy. Like I'm only ever going to be the bodybuilding guy, which is a hilarious thing to think about because of how much life, the conversation that we're having here in general, how much life there is outside of bodybuilding. Being a bodybuilding coach opens you to 2% of the world population as your clientele. Being a bodybuilding coach who also understands how to program for CrossFit, who understands powerlifting, who understands working with general fitness clientele, like if your goal is to generate as many clients and as much revenue as possible for yourself as a coach, like that's the only way to go about it. And that's why I've always had like so much respect for folks like Dom, for folks like Jay, for folks like Paul that work with the spectrum of athletes. They're not bodybuilding coaches. They are just coaches. So a little praise for you guys there.
Thank you.
Dom, I think we've had that conversation a couple times.
I wish I could say something nice about you, but I just blank right now, dude.
Yeah.
So blank.
Maybe say something mean and I'll just accept the fact that you're talking about me, and that's more than enough for me.
I think the biggest takeaway though is you're one injury away from all of it ending.
Not only that.
That was dark.
Like, no, I mean it really is though. Imagine how bad an injury can be that it just you're out for 6-7 months, you need surgery, then you're out for another 4 months. You're looking at a year at that point. And then it's like, well, where do you even go?
One, you need surgery, and two, you're a bodybuilder, so you for sure don't have health insurance. So not only is your bodybuilding on the back burner for 8 months, now you're 70 grand in the red. And
dude, I know so many guys
can only take you so far.
I know so many guys. Oh, don't even get me started on that shit. I know so many guys that have like torn labrums and like rotator cuff pieces that are just completely torn, and they won't get it done because they won't pay for it. They don't want to pay for it. Well, they don't want to pay for it, but they can't pay for it. That's what I should have said.
That's reality. No, let me get you started on that. So when we saw it with, I think his name is Ryan Crowley, the guy who tore his chest. It was the video that went super viral. Like Larry Wheels was spotting him on like a 495 incline, tore his chest, started a GoFundMe. I think the GoFundMe had like some absurd amount of money, like $250,000 in like a week. And he just dropped that, had the surgery. And what's he back to doing now? Crazy shit in the gym with Larry Wheels. So Dom, let it roll. What is your view on those kind of situations? You see it all the time.
They need to really fix their website because there's some ridiculous GoFundMes for people. I've seen people put up like, please finance my national show. Like, please help me with purchasing my supplements. Like I've seen, it's crazy the GoFundMes I've seen for bodybuilders, or like I have 3 kids and my husband left me. I'm starting my GoFundMe to help me go to my first national show. Like, why are you even doing a national show?
Yeah.
So how does GoFundMe even work? Do they take a percentage of all the?
They take a little bit.
Okay.
But if you pay with like a card, you can leave like a percent tip that goes to GoFundMe.
Wow.
I think in addition to being one injury away, like people need to realize that bodybuilding is a young man's sport. So you're putting a lot of time and investment and
how dare you?
Enhanced bodybuilding is a young man's sport. You're investing so much time and neglecting other areas of your life, time, money, all that, for something that like it has a very early expiration date, Like you're not going to be pounding these supplements when you're like 40 years old, still chasing a pro card,
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Well, and especially the habits and the way people do now, I think we're seeing like bodybuilders are dying at a younger age and stuff. So especially, and also like a very few, like a lot of people who are chasing it, like only the smallest percent of people even have the genetics to fucking make it, Like,
Yeah, that's where I was
I mean-
gonna step in there, and Derek, good old Derek at More Plates, More Dates, Plates. What's that? More Plates, More Dates. Derek had a video about Nick Walker about being like a hyper responder to the supplements that go with bodybuilding. It's like, here's a guy that like you give him the same amount as average gym bro, and he adds 20 pounds of muscle every single year, seemingly year after year. And when other people don't get that response because they are not in that genetic 3%, those two standard deviations removed from the mean, they don't get that response. Like their natural inclination, because bodybuilding is who they are, it is their life. They're like, okay, I'll take more. And with more comes more side effects. And it becomes more and more of like what Paul said, of like a ticking time bomb, to where like, how many times can you just say, all right, I'll just do more. All right, I'll just do more, before more becomes too much. And it's tragic, like Paul said, because bodybuilders are dying younger and younger in larger numbers. Like you see these stories all the time, whether it's from the mental health side of things, of combining these drugs with the expectations of being a top level bodybuilder, or it's just the side effects that come with taking way too much of them. So it really just kind of like feeds forward, and is quite a negative situation there.
Yeah, I got some good feedback from my story yesterday about doing your blood work, like at like right when prep finishes, or in the middle of prep, or in the middle of being super physiological, because everyone's like, "Oh, my blood work was fine," and then I'm like, "Well, it was 8 weeks after. Like, I would hope it was fine. Like, if it wasn't fine, something would need to be done. Like, just to see how that body responds to being super physiological. Like, all you're doing is speeding up like arterial, like you're speeding up so many like bad things during that moment of time. Like Dante Trudell always talks about that. Like when you're in the middle of being super physiological, everything else is super physiological. So how do you minimize that to reduce your risk of these side effects and stuff? And it's not milk thistle.
I refuse to believe it.
I think part of my problem with the like, oh, everything was fine 8 weeks later, and that's all the information you have, and then just going forward from there and being like, oh, I'm ready for my next course, is like, how long was everything fine? And like some people, like a lot of people see fine blood work, and they're just like, I'm ready, right? And I think at the very least, every so often, I think people should be like, oh, everything's fine now, but let's make sure it's fine for a while. Let me take an extra couple months,
Yeah, and then there's so many people that don't even get blood work because they're nervous to see what their blood work looks like. So they just kind of brush it off and don't even think about it. And they say, they're like, okay, I did 10 weeks. I'll take 10 weeks. Then I'll do another 10 weeks. But in that 30 weeks, they never once got anything checked.
It's like it's like the I can't have chlamydia if I don't get tested for chlamydia argument.
Yeah, dude. I had a couple years ago an opportunity to work maybe no a couple years ago an opportunity to work with a client, and I was like, okay, like we can work together. I'd like you to get blood work first. And he wouldn't do it, and then eventually somebody else picked him up, and I don't know when or if they got their blood work, but then like another year later I hear the guy has some serious problems, and I'm like, you can't go years without getting blood work. Even for non-enhanced people, it's a good idea to get blood work every couple months, man. Especially as you're getting older and you're not like 22 anymore.
Dude, I look at that Nick Walker fella, and he's like a giant human being, and he might be getting away with lower dosages than most people, and he has a full head of hair, because that's usually how I'm like, okay, still has a full head of hair. He must be okay from at least that end. But then you also do, how big is that guy? What is it, like 275 or something like that?
Yeah, at like a nice 5'7".
In his peak off season, I'm pretty sure he's near or over 300 pounds. I could be wrong.
So at the end of the day, the one and most important organ that doesn't really give a shit if you're carrying more muscle or body fat is your heart. So that's 300 pounds on your heart, regardless of what, is tissue the wrong, I don't want to use the word tissue, but whatever it's got to pump blood to, it doesn't matter. That's still 300 pounds of tissue that it's got to push blood through. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's muscle or body fat. I don't think most people realize that. Like, it's still 300 pounds. You're still carrying around 300 pounds.
That's one argument from like Broderick Chavez, is that at a certain point, the sheer size and mass and body weight is harder on your body than the actual compounds. Whether or not that's true, I'm not sure, but I mean, we do know that, like, and he'll say this too, within the same species, bigger things die sooner. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Very true. Yeah, I think you can see that in like dogs. No, I think, Jay, you make a good point, because if we hearken back to the death of Dallas McCarver, on his autopsy, his heart weight was something like insane. I think it was like 800 or 850 grams was what his heart weighed on that final autopsy.
Like, I want to say it was like 2.5 or somewhere near 3 times the size of like.
Yeah. So the average human heart is 300 to 500 grams, depending on the individual. So like,
so his weighed 833 grams.
Okay.
The normal heart weighs about 300 grams.
But what's crazy too is it wasn't just his heart. I'm pretty sure every other vital organ that they weighed was larger than it should have been by a huge margin. His kidneys, his liver, his lungs, even, I believe.
His liver was really big too. Hang on, I'll find it.
His thyroid.
But outwardly, just looking at Dallas, you might, using Dom's word here, think he's fine. Like, he looks fine. He doesn't have any of the like side effects that really worry you, like the really bad varicose veins, any of the flushing, that red colored skin. Jay is standard. I think he still had hair.
We also didn't see him in his day-to-day life, right?
Exactly.
And I think people were concerned about him, because I want to say at some shows prior to that, people had seen that he had like labored breathing or almost passed out or something like that, or maybe did pass out on stage. I can't remember.
I think he passed out in Arnold.
He did pass
So
out.
when I missed the overall at the Florida State, the guy that beat me, he was a super heavyweight, and I've never been so concerned for someone backstage in my life. Like, this man he would go out and pose, and he only did one round of posing for the super heavyweights because he was the only one out there. He came back, and this man was like, he sounded like a seagull. He was sucking wind so hard, he sounded like a seagull. He had both of his coaches with like large towels, like fanning him off as he like head in his hands tried to catch his breath. I was like, this, at the time I didn't really know much about bodybuilding, but I was like, this seems very bad. And that was another guy. The next year he was done with bodybuilding. He's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Good move.
So like, any points to wrap up this conversation here? Dom made some really good points. Work on your career. Work on, finding a significant other that will actually take care of you and steer you to make correct decisions. Get your finances right. Move out of your parents' house, please. And then what else do you want to add, Dom, before someone can really kind of dive in on bodybuilding?
I don't know. It ain't that serious. Like, and that's coming from me. Like, I coach a lot of national athletes, and like, we talk about this stuff. Like, I always tell them, like, yes, we want to turn pro. Like, that's our goal. But like, if I think that goal to get there is going to cost you like some really stupid decisions, like, I'm going to not let you do that. And that's what, in my opinion, a good coach would do. Like, if they're struggling to make payments, bills, all that, like, hey, dude, it's fine. Like, there's always another show. You can work and save up and do whatever you have to do. Or, if they're just not mentally in the right spot, if they're ruining relationships, if, things like that, like, you can always pull back. Like, I've pulled people from shows this year already, just on that note, just because like they had so much going on, but they had to prep. And I was like, dude, we're not going to get anywhere. Like, just stop. Focus on your family, focus on your job, like whatever it was for the person. and just take a step back because I don't just because like this could be over instantly.
Just ain't worth it. That's kind of a dreary note to end on. So, Paul, where's Pancake? Is Pancake nearby?
She's not.
Is she feeling better?
Taking a nap. She is feeling better.
There we go. There's a positive note.
I
Pancake is feeling better.
I think you'll be a lot happier if you bodybuild while having your finances, career, relationships, all that set, because you'll actually enjoy the process of bodybuilding. You won't have outside stressors stressing you out.
Yeah,
for sure. Ronnie Coleman, the greatest bodybuilder to ever exist, was also a cop all the way through. Won the Olympia, and they said, "Hey, man, you don't have to come to work anymore. You're famous. You're a famous bodybuilder. You're rich." And he came back to work anyway. Why did he come back to work anyway? Because he enjoyed it. He had other things in his life that he enjoyed. So find some other hobbies in life. Get a fucking hobby, for the love of God. Bodybuilding is a hobby. It's not your life. Find some other hobbies there as well. Make some model cars, burn ants with magnifying glasses,
Dude,
whatever you're into, whatever kind of weird stuff.
Pops.
Collect little Funko Pops. Hey, little known fact, if you cut open the head of your Funko Pops, inside, you will not find brains or candy. You'll find nothing. True story, Jimmy tried to tell Dom to cut open the heads of his Funko Pops, and there would be little toys and fun stuff. Oh, wow. That's a good looking one right there. All right, Jay, Paul, anything you want to leave the people with on our first episode of GNN with Wolf Squat Dad Blitzer?
Like on that last topic or just in general?
Or just in life, not that topic, just in life.
In life? I don't know, man.
Gotta leave them with something.
That's life. That's life.
Yeah, that's life right there. A big
That's
sigh.
Everything I do, it's just a big sigh, and that is like you're stuck, man. This is it, dude.
That's as much wisdom as you'll ever need right there. All right, folks, tune in to the next one. We will continue. If you've got ideas for topics that you want us to break down, you want to hear our opinion on them, as always, you know where to find us on Instagram at Gifted Perfromance. Their tags will be down below. We will see you on the next one. Until then, stay informed, stay opinionated, and stay gifted. Peace.
Bye.